This Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni court case has been difficult to follow, with new bombshells dropping almost every day. Headlines change by the hour, stories contradict each other, and legal twists keep stacking up. For fans, followers, and even people in the industry, it's been hard to separate fact from chaos. So, here's a full breakdown: where it all started, how it spiraled out of control, and where things stand today. You're not going to believe how deep this goes. It all began during the production of It Ends With Us, a film adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel. Justin Baldoni wasn't just directing, he was pouring his heart into the project. This was more than a movie to him. It was a passion piece. He had fought for the rights, personally championed the story, and wanted to make sure the film delivered an emotional and powerful message to audiences. So, when Blake Lively was brought in as the lead, things seemed perfect at first. She had the star power, the look, the fan base. It looked like a dream pairing on paper. But behind the scenes, something much darker was already brewing, and it all started with Ryan Reynolds. Sources close to production have confirmed that Reynolds began getting heavily involved, despite having no official role in the film. At first, he gave Blake tips on how to shape her character, but before long, it went further. He allegedly began rewriting entire chunks of dialogue, changing key scenes, and even pushing back on Baldoni's direction, all without approval. Ryan, who's used to calling the shots in his own projects, allegedly treated this like his film, and that didn't sit well with Baldoni. Baldoni, who was already juggling the massive responsibility of directing and acting, now had to deal with constant interference. But instead of lashing out, he tried to keep things professional. According to insiders on set, Baldoni politely asked for creative boundaries to be respected. That's when things took a turn. Tension escalated quickly. Blake reportedly became more withdrawn on set, often refusing to take direction from Baldoni unless Ryan was present. Entire production days were slowed down due to miscommunication and control issues. Crew members began to feel the strain. The once inspiring energy on set turned cold, but what happened next would send the entire production, and eventually the entire industry, into meltdown mode. Because after weeks of friction, Blake Lively filed a formal complaint. She accused Baldoni of harassment, misconduct, and creating a toxic work environment. Suddenly, the director who had been celebrated for his emotional intelligence and sensitivity was being painted as the villain. The media latched on immediately. Articles, headlines, op-eds. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. But Baldoni didn't stay quiet. He didn't back down. He came out swinging. And that's when things exploded in ways no one saw coming. Suddenly, Blake Lively filed formal complaints against Baldoni, accusing him of harassment, misconduct, and creating an unsafe set. She claimed he made her feel uncomfortable, that his behavior was inappropriate, and that she was pressured into performing scenes she didn't consent to. The accusations were brutal, and they hit the press like a bomb. In less than 24 hours, headlines everywhere painted Baldoni as the aggressor. "Blake Lively accuses director of misconduct!" they shouted. Commentators began dissecting every public interaction between the two. Clips from press interviews were reanalyzed. Social media erupted. People were quick to cancel Baldoni before even hearing his side. But what the public didn't know was that Baldoni was already building a case of his own. Behind closed doors, Baldoni had quietly hired a legal team. He had been documenting incidents, collecting footage, and gathering statements from cast and crew. He knew something wasn't right. According to court filings, Baldoni believed Lively and Ryan Reynolds were working together to sabotage his reputation, and what he uncovered would shake the foundation of their story. That's when Baldoni filed a $400 million lawsuit against Blake, Ryan, and their longtime publicist, Leslie Sloan. He didn't hold back. The lawsuit accused them of defamation, emotional distress, and professional sabotage. But most shocking of all, it claimed that Blake and Ryan were deliberately trying to get him blacklisted from Hollywood. Why? Because Baldoni refused to give Ryan creative control over the film. The legal documents were explosive. They included transcripts of emails, behind-the-scenes text messages, and even audio recordings from the set. Baldoni's team laid out a pattern. Every time he pushed back against Ryan's script notes, a new complaint about him mysteriously emerged. Every time he asserted creative control, a new story leaked to the press. And then came the footage. Video recordings from the set showed Blake laughing between takes, offering feedback on scenes she would later claim were demeaning. She wasn't upset. She wasn't uncomfortable. She was actively involved. One clip even shows her asking Baldoni for another take, suggesting she was not only aware of the content, but fully engaged in shaping it. That's when everything changed. The narrative started to shift. People who had rushed to judge Baldoni began to pause. Industry insiders started quietly questioning the story. But what came next made the entire scandal even more bizarre, because it wasn't just about false accusations anymore. It was about power, control, and the way Blake and Ryan allegedly used their celebrity status to manipulate an entire production. And you won't believe how far they went. As the lawsuit gained steam, so did the fallout. Justin Baldoni's $400 million counterattack didn't just shake Blake Lively. It sent shockwaves through the entire entertainment industry. People suddenly realized this wasn't just a dispute between co-stars. This was a full-blown war, with reputations, careers, and millions of dollars on the line. The lawsuit didn't just expose internal drama, it laid out a calculated scheme. According to Baldoni's legal team, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively used their influence to twist the public narrative. They allegedly worked behind the scenes to plant negative stories about Baldoni in major media outlets. And what's worse, the lawsuit revealed direct connections between those stories and Leslie Sloan, their PR agent, who has worked with both Blake and Ryan for over a decade. Emails pulled from Discovery showed Leslie Sloan emailing journalists before any formal complaint was filed. She was allegedly coordinating damaging headlines, ready to destroy Baldoni's image the moment things got heated. And those emails had exact talking points, lines that showed up, word for word, in headlines that followed. But that wasn't even the most damning part. In one internal text message, revealed during pre-trial proceedings, Ryan allegedly told Blake, "He's done. Just wait. We'll burn this guy to the ground." That message, now a focal point of the lawsuit, was time-stamped just 2 days before Blake's formal complaint. Baldoni's attorneys say it proves intent, showing the smear campaign wasn't a reaction, it was a setup. And it worked, at first. Baldoni's career took an immediate hit. Within weeks of Blake's accusations going public, he was dropped from 2 directing projects. WME, his talent agency, quietly removed him from their roster. Vital Voices, a women's advocacy nonprofit, revoked an award they had previously given him for allyship in entertainment. But even as the walls closed in, Baldoni didn't back down. He released a powerful public statement, short, direct, and fearless. He said, "I have dedicated my entire career to creating safe, empowering environments on and off screen. I will not be silenced by lies. The truth will speak for itself." And then, just like that, the tide began to turn. Because Baldoni's team started releasing evidence. They brought forward over a dozen crew members who testified under oath that Baldoni had never exhibited any inappropriate behavior on set. In fact, several female crew members described him as one of the most respectful people they'd ever worked with. But the moment that flipped everything, the Adam Monshine statement. Monshine, who played Dr. Dunbar in the film, came forward voluntarily. In a signed deposition, he stated that Blake Lively's claims about the on-set atmosphere were false. He revealed that Blake was fully clothed during the now infamous scene. He said she had multiple opportunities to object or modify the content, and never did. According to Adam, Blake was confident, comfortable, and totally in control. She never showed any signs of distress or discomfort. Not during the scene, not after. And once that statement became public, the media scrambled. Journalists who had parroted Lively's claims were suddenly backpedaling. Online commentators who had condemned Baldoni began deleting their tweets. And fans who had believed the worst started demanding answers from Blake herself. But instead of addressing it, she stayed silent. And that silence? It only made things worse. Because Baldoni wasn't done yet. He had one final piece of evidence that would flip the entire case upside down. And it involved a leaked phone call that you won't believe even exists. Baldoni's legal team had already delivered major blows, but what they released next sent the courtroom and the internet into total chaos. It was a phone call. A private recording of a tense conversation between Blake Lively and a former executive producer from the It Ends With Us project. The call, dated just days before her complaint was filed, revealed Blake expressing frustration, not about safety or discomfort, but about control. In the leaked audio, Blake is heard saying, Justin won't listen. He's not making the movie the way I imagined it. Ryan and I are trying to fix it, but he's shutting us out. She goes on to say, if he won't collaborate, then maybe we just stop playing nice. Those words hit like a lightning bolt. This wasn't a woman reacting to harassment. This was someone playing chess, strategizing, calculating, and threatening consequences over creative differences. The audio was authenticated, time-stamped, and confirmed by the producer on the other end of the line. That leak changed everything. Suddenly, the entire legal case turned. Lively's team rushed to file a motion to block the tape from being used as evidence, claiming it was taken out of context. But it was too late. The public heard it. The damage was done. Baldoni's legal team framed it as the smoking gun. Clear proof that Lively's complaint was a weapon, not a response. And from that moment on, the dominoes began to fall. One by one, major players in Hollywood began distancing themselves from Blake. Production companies started pulling out of future projects she was attached to. A fragrance deal she had with a major luxury brand was postponed indefinitely. Rumors began swirling that even Netflix had reconsidered a lead role she was set to take on. Meanwhile, Baldoni's legal team kept the pressure on. They released call sheets, emails, and internal production notes that painted a clear timeline. Every time Blake and Ryan made a creative demand and didn't get their way, another issue was raised. Every complaint coincided with a moment where Baldoni held firm as the director. The pattern was impossible to ignore. And perhaps most devastating of all, they found out Blake had been shopping a behind-the-scenes memoir before filing the complaint. In emails recovered through legal discovery, Blake's literary agent had been in talks with publishers, teasing a personal and emotional exposé of her time filming It Ends With Us. The pitch included phrases like reclaiming the narrative and breaking the silence in Hollywood. Except, this was before any alleged misconduct was ever reported. Baldoni's attorneys presented that as proof that the entire complaint was premeditated, crafted not for justice, but for publicity, for a book deal, for headlines. And the public response? It was brutal. Commentators began calling Blake's legal filing a weaponized PR stunt. Even some of her most loyal fans began to question her motives. And while she stayed quiet in public, insiders claimed she was unraveling behind the scenes. she reportedly fired 2 members of her legal team. One source even claimed she had a screaming match with her publicist after the phone call leak went viral. And then came the final humiliation, because when she showed up for a pre-trial deposition, she reportedly left early in tears. The media swarmed the courthouse. Cameras captured her rushing to a waiting SUV, face down, visibly shaken. It was a far cry from the poised, polished starlet the world knew. And it left everyone asking the same question. What was she so afraid of being asked? And just when you thought this battle couldn't get more intense, Baldoni's team was preparing to drop one final piece of evidence. Something even Lively's team hadn't seen coming, and it would change everything. Again. By now, Blake Lively's carefully curated image was collapsing faster than anyone could have predicted. Once known for her graceful red carpet presence and polished Hollywood persona, Blake was suddenly at the center of a scandal that wouldn't stop growing. And while she tried to maintain silence publicly, the silence only made things worse. Behind the scenes, panic was setting in. Her team reportedly held emergency meetings with PR crisis firms, legal advisors, and brand managers. Why? Because the calls weren't just about bad press. They were about contracts being terminated. Within a span of 2 weeks, 3 major brands cut ties with Blake. A French luxury fashion house quietly removed all her recent campaign imagery from their socials. A cosmetics brand delayed a major launch featuring Blake as the face, and a wellness company she co-founded went completely dark, stopping all posts, newsletters, and collaborations. Public filings later confirmed investors had pulled out, and you won't believe what happened next. Streaming platforms began reviewing her active contracts. According to insider reports, Netflix placed her upcoming thriller on hold, citing creative restructuring. But those close to the project say it was because of the lawsuit. Executives were reportedly worried that audiences would associate her name with controversy, and they weren't willing to take the risk. Meanwhile, Hollywood itself was shifting. Producers, executives, agents, people who once lined up to work with Blake began pulling back, quietly, carefully, but decisively. And it wasn't just the industry turning on her. The public began dissecting everything she'd said and done over the years. Old interviews resurfaced, some where she had criticized toxic male directors without naming names. Some fans speculated that those comments were coded shots at Baldoni, even before the scandal broke. Reddit threads exploded. Twitter trended for days. The narrative was slipping from her grasp. But while Blake's world was falling apart, Justin Baldoni's was starting to rebuild. With every new piece of evidence released, support for Baldoni surged. His fan base, once quiet, rallied behind him. People praised his professionalism, his calm demeanor, and how he'd chosen to respond with facts, not outrage. Even former co-stars began speaking up. Actress Gina Rodriguez, who worked with Baldoni on Jane the Virgin, shared a post calling him the most respectful, grounded, and genuine actor I've ever shared a set with. Another actor from a past Baldoni project said, "I never once saw anything but integrity from Justin. He's the real deal." And what came next solidified that image even more. Baldoni's team announced they were launching a fund, backed by private donors, to help other filmmakers who've been wrongly accused or unfairly canceled without trial. The fund's mission was clear: protect reputations, fight back with truth, and give legal support to creatives navigating character attacks. The move was praised as powerful, brave, and strategic. It positioned Baldoni not just as a victim, but as a leader, someone taking the high road while Blake Lively continued to spiral. But then came the final betrayal that no one saw coming. Taylor Swift, longtime friend of Blake, godmother to one of Blake and Ryan's children, She had remained silent throughout the ordeal. But when reports leaked that Blake had reached out to apologize privately to Taylor, begging for support and even asking her to make a public post in her defense, Taylor said no. According to sources close to the situation, Taylor was shocked by the legal evidence and didn't want to attach her name to a fight that looked one-sided. It was the ultimate blow. If Blake couldn't even count on Taylor Swift, then who could she count on? The silence from her inner circle said it all. And just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, Blake faced her biggest humiliation yet. A public appearance that was supposed to be her comeback, an SNL hosting gig, was abruptly canceled by the network after producers reportedly became uncomfortable with her presence amid the scandal. The replacement host? A rising actress known for her advocacy of fair legal practices in Hollywood. It was a symbolic slap in the face, and what happened behind the scenes of that SNL week would cause another meltdown, one that left Blake in total freefall. Blake Lively's attempt at a public comeback couldn't have gone worse. She had one chance to shift the narrative, one moment to take back the spotlight. That moment was supposed to be her Saturday Night Live hosting gig. Behind the scenes, her team had worked hard to get it locked in. They thought a quirky, lighthearted appearance on SNL could soften her image, maybe even get the public back on her side. They pushed for a comedy-heavy script, jokes that poked fun at the rumors, and a monologue that framed her as the misunderstood, unfairly targeted victim. But things unraveled faster than anyone expected. From the moment Blake stepped into rehearsal, staffers described her as tense, distracted, and combative. According to multiple people on set, she clashed with the writers, refused multiple sketches, and snapped at assistants. One insider even said she was panicking. She wanted control over every line, every joke, every moment. It wasn't about comedy, it was about damage control. And it all came to a head the night before the live taping. After a full rehearsal run-through, Blake allegedly had a breakdown backstage, screaming at her PR rep, crying in her dressing room, demanding that the show scrap a skit referencing the lawsuit, even though she had approved it hours earlier. Crew members were reportedly pulled in to calm her down, but nothing worked. According to production sources, Lorne Michaels, the SNL creator himself, stepped in and made the call. Blake was out. Just like that, her episode was canceled. Quietly, no press announcement, no scandal statement. The network simply replaced her with another host and moved on like she was never there. The message was loud and clear. No one was willing to gamble their reputation on Blake anymore. But while Blake was melting down behind closed doors, Baldoni was preparing for the biggest moment in this case so far: the courtroom. The trial is now officially set for March 2026, but the legal groundwork is already being laid. And based on what's come out so far, it's clear. Baldoni's side is locked in. His legal team has compiled over 2,000 pages of evidence, including internal communications, video logs, signed witness statements, and financial documentation proving the damage to his career. They're not just going after Blake for defamation. They're going after Ryan Reynolds for aiding and abetting it. Yes, Ryan isn't just a background character anymore. Baldoni's lawsuit now includes claims that Ryan helped manufacture damaging content and pushed for specific media outlets to run the false narrative. His texts and emails are part of the evidence being submitted. One line in particular is already drawing attention from legal experts. "This guy's a problem. Let's make sure people know." Ryan's legal team has stayed quiet, but sources say he's now under legal advisement to avoid making any public comments about the case. Even his normally active social media presence has gone eerily silent. And what's even more interesting, Hollywood seems to be bracing for impact. Multiple studios have reportedly requested early screening of the court's pre-trial evidence filings, Industry lawyers are advising executives on risk exposure when working with Blake or Ryan going forward. It's clear this isn't just a scandal, it's becoming a case study in reputation destruction. But Baldoni isn't letting it end with court wins. He's started meeting privately with other actors and directors who've faced false accusations. And according to reports, he's pushing for a new legal coalition that would help protect creatives from being canceled without due process. And guess what? It's gaining traction. Several high-profile creatives are said to be backing the initiative. Behind closed doors, Baldoni is being seen as a champion of integrity, and even people who were once silent are now stepping forward with their own stories of manipulation, sabotage, and behind-the-scenes bullying. But as the trial looms, one question hangs over all of this like a storm cloud. What will Blake do when she's forced to take the stand? Under oath, no handlers, no script, and no way out. Because if what's already come out is any indication, the courtroom testimony is going to reveal even more lies, and maybe even destroy what's left of her career. And it's coming faster than she's ready for. As the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni rages on, the implications for both parties, and Hollywood at large, are becoming increasingly profound. In a surprising twist, disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein, currently incarcerated for multiple sex crime convictions, has publicly expressed support for Baldoni. Weinstein criticized the New York Times for allegedly misrepresenting Baldoni's case, drawing parallels to his own experiences with the media. This unexpected endorsement has added another layer of complexity to the already convoluted narrative. Amid the turmoil, Lively reached out to her longtime friend Taylor Swift to apologize for inadvertently involving her in the dispute. Reports indicate that Swift accepted the apology, signaling a mending of their relationship. This development comes after Baldoni's legal team suggested that Swift could be deposed in the case, given her alleged involvement in production discussions. Adding to Lively's challenges, actor Adam Monshine, who portrayed Dr. Dunbar in It Ends With Us, has publicly disputed her claims regarding on-set misconduct. Monshine stated that Lively was fully clothed during the scenes in question and did not express discomfort at the time. He has expressed willingness to testify in court, potentially undermining Lively's allegations. The legal proceedings have also seen motions to dismiss from multiple parties. Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, and The New York Times have both sought to be removed from Baldoni's lawsuit, arguing that their statements were either opinions or substantially true. Additionally, Ryan Reynolds has filed a motion to dismiss, contending that his alleged comments about Baldoni are protected opinions. As the trial date approaches, the entertainment industry watches closely, aware that the outcome could set significant precedents. The case underscores the complexities of power dynamics in Hollywood and highlights the potential consequences of public disputes. For Lively, the stakes are immense. Her credibility and career hang in the balance. Conversely, Baldoni's determination to defend his reputation reflects a broader struggle against what he perceives as manipulative tactics aimed at professional sabotage. In the court of public opinion, the scales have begun to tip. Lively's initial accusations garnered widespread attention and sympathy, but as more evidence emerges, skepticism grows. Baldoni's proactive defense and the support he's received from various quarters have started to reshape the narrative. The entertainment industry, known for its swift judgments, now appears more cautious, recognizing the multifaceted nature of such disputes. As the legal proceedings continue, one thing remains clear. The resolution of this case will have lasting implications, not just for Lively and Baldoni, but for the broader conversations about accountability, media influence, and the intricacies of professional relationships in Hollywood. Blake thought she'd destroyed Justin Baldoni, but it looks like she destroyed herself instead.